Hey YouTube, welcome back to the channel. It's Jamar from Vegas Scents, and in this video I'm going over 10 fragrances that I have in my collection that I consider to be more so sort of fragrance twists rather than clones that I actually really enjoy. All right, so definitely stick around throughout the whole video. Also, anyone brand new to the channel, do me a favor, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Also, anyone watching, leave a like and a comment on the video. And also, if you shop at either bandolierfragrance.com, oudstore.com, or tripletraders.com, definitely be sure to use my discount code VegasScents10, and that'll give you 10% off of your order. All right. So just to get started with the video, the first fragrance on this list, this is going to be from the house of Paris Corner. And this is sort of like a twist on the YSL Baby Cat scent profile. And this is going to be Rifaaqat by Paris Corner. So to my nose, this is definitely a little bit more sort of like on the smokier or more so heavy on incense in the opening. And then pretty much in the dry down, this becomes a little bit more sort of vanillic and sweet in the dry down than what the original YSL Baby Cat does. This is still, I would say, at least probably about 80 to 85% YSL Baby Cat. But, you know, again, in the opening, it does have that heavier emphasis on the extra sort of smoke and incense, along with sweetness in the dry down. And I would say this one might be even slightly spicier than what Baby Cat is. But all in all, this is a really great fragrance. I really love this one. This is, again, it's going to be Rifaaqat by Paris Corner. All right, so the next fragrance up, this is going to be from FA Paris Fragrance World, and this is actually their take on Initio Side Effect, and this is going to be After Effect by FA Paris Fragrance World. So this isn't like 100% like straight up clone of Side Effect. It gets, I would say it's one of the more higher quality sort of interpretations of Side Effect. But the way that this particular fragrance is done, it starts off spicy and then it kind of goes to like a sort of boozy, sort of vanillic sort of scent. Whereas with Side Effect, it's the opposite of that. Side Effect kind of starts off boozy, and then vanilla, and then sort of transitions into sort of like a spicier sort of fragrance. But again, at the same time, in my opinion, I would say this is probably the highest quality, you know, Side Effect sort of interpretation that I've smelled. I would say this is about 80 to 85%, you know, in terms of how close it is to Side Effect. But at least for me, I actually prefer the way that this fragrance wears as opposed to Side Effect. So again, this is going to be After Effect by FA Paris Fragrance World. All right, so this next fragrance is going to be from the house of Art Al Zafran, and this is going to be Tafakhar. All right, and this is, I would say this is going to be closer to sort of like that clone, you know, sort of fragrance as opposed to like an inspiration. But this does still have a twist to it, I would say, once you start to get into the dry down of the fragrance. At least to my nose, this is not as sort of green as what Carlisle, you know, seems to be, you know, at least in the dry down. This seems, at least to me, to be a little bit more sort of vanillic and sweet, which I do actually like that a lot about this particular fragrance. When it comes to performance, this particular bottle, I would say it hasn't fully matured or macerated yet, so I don't want to really, you know, get into that as of yet. But in terms of just closeness of smell, I would say this is about 85 to 90 or so % close to Carlisle, with again that sort of twist in the dry down with the extra sort of vanillic touch. All right, so definitely check this one out. Again, this is Art Al Zafran's Tafakhar. Next fragrance is going to be from the house of Emperor Perfumes. This is going to be Prive Turquoise. This is Emperor's take on Armani Prive's Blue Turquoise. And pretty much with this, what you get with the Prive Turquoise is it takes away that really sort of harsh in your face, opening that you get with Blue Turquoise, where you get this sort of mixture of incense and a heavy dose of black pepper. That opening in that particular fragrance can be sort of off-putting, at least to my nose, and sort of abrasive. Whereas with this fragrance, I would say you get a lot of vanilla in the opening mixed with incense. So it's not as, abrasive with that heavy dose of black pepper, than that, you actually get with the Armani. Also, I would say throughout the entire life of the fragrance, the Emperor Perfumes fragrance is going to be, definitely a little bit sweeter than the Armani. But overall, I would say, this probably comes about 85% to 90% close to the Emperor Perfumes. Or I'm sorry, the Armani Prive fragrance. So definitely check this one out if you want like a sort of sweeter and much cheaper version of, Blue Turquoise. Again, this is going to be Prive Turquoise from Emperor Perfumes. All right, so next from the house of Zara, we have Zara's Tender Amber. And Tender Amber is going to be, I would say, in my opinion, it's a twist on Xerjoff's Herba Pura. So this is going to give you more of a sort of natural smelling, like fruit, citrus, citrusy, fruity sort of smell, as opposed to like that sort of candied, dried fruit, sort of sickeningly sweet, fruity smell that you get from Herba Pura. This is also not going to be as heavy on musk. I would say it's not as heavy on musk, and it's not as heavy on vanilla as what Herba Pura is. So I would say, to me, that makes this fragrance a little bit more on sort of like the unisex side. And, again, it makes it a little bit more wearable, at least for me, than what the Herba Pura, scent profile is. So again, this is going to be Zara's Tender Amber. All right, so next up is from the house of Al Haramain. This is Al Haramain's Amber Oud Rouge. And this is pretty much like a sort of mashup or, hybrid of Baccarat Rouge 540 EDP and the extrait sort of mixed together. Pretty much what I get from this is you kind of get like the opening of the EDP from this fragrance. And then once this starts to dry down, you start to get sort of like that kind of metallic sort of almond note that you get from like the extrait. So that's how this sort of behaves, at least for me. But, I think you do get sort of like the best of both worlds when it comes to this fragrance. And at least for me, this fragrance, me having this, it doesn't necessarily leave me wanting to, go out and purchase either the EDP or the extrait of Baccarat Rouge 540. Obviously, those fragrances, they are going to smell higher quality than, what you get with this. But I would say for the price that you pay for this still does do a very good job. It lasts, forever for the most part. And I really do love what this fragrance does, at least for me. So again, this is going to be Al Haramain's Amber Oud Rouge. All right, so next from the house of Paris Corner, this is Paris Corner Amir's Vertex. And Vertex is going to be Paris Corner's take on Roche's Apex. So this is definitely, I would say, the biggest sort of twist on the scent profile. Well, maybe not on this list, but I would say this is definitely a twist and not necessarily a clone of Roche's Apex. Roche's Apex, even down to like the texture of the two fragrances, Roche's Apex is definitely a lot more aromatic than what you get with Vertex. Vertex is definitely, a lot sweeter, I would say, than what you get with Apex. Also, Apex comes off to me as a lot more sort of herbal, a lot more greener, and I would say also a lot more smokier than what Vertex does. So to my nose, Vertex also, it has more of a similarity, I would say, to Dior Sauvage Elixir. Not necessarily saying that this is like a clone of that fragrance or it smells exactly like it, but I do get, you know, some nuances of Dior Sauvage Elixir in this fragrance. Whereas with the Rouge Apex, I don't really get that at all. All right. So that actually, I would say, at least for me, I actually do enjoy this fragrance a little bit better. Rouge's Apex, at least, you know, the way it wears on me, I really don't enjoy the way that that fragrance smells that much. So, you know, if you maybe have smelled Rouge's Apex and you didn't necessarily care for it, maybe check this out, because this might actually be better for you in terms of, you know, what you actually prefer. All right, so again, this is going to be Paris Corner Amir's Vertex. All right, so sticking with the House of Paris Corner, this is from their Killer Oud line, and this is going to be Killer Oud Nights of Arabia. So Nights of Arabia is Paris Corner's take on Byredo's Black Saffron, and this is definitely a twist as well. In the opening of Nights of Arabia, you get a lot more sort of sweet black currant with this particular fragrance than what you get with the Byredo. The Byredo, to me, you do still smell like the black currant in the Byredo fragrance, but it dies off and gets overtaken by sort of like this leathery saffron and also leather in that fragrance as well. Whereas the sweetness, I feel like in the Killer Oud fragrance, it does stick around for a little bit longer. I would say really it is there for most of the fragrance, but I mean, this does start to become a lot more sort of leathery as it dries down. But overall, I would say it has more of a sort of fresher sort of sweetness than what the Byredo does. The Byredo to me definitely smells, I would say, a little bit more on the mature side than what the Killer Oud fragrance does. All right, so at least for that reason, I actually prefer this over the Byredo. So again, this is going to be Paris Corner's Killer Oud Nights of Arabia. All right, so this next fragrance, this is going to be a Walmart cheapie, and this is going to be from the house of Cremo, and this is Saltwater and Cypress from Cremo. Pretty much, this is like a twist on Acqua di Gio Profondo, and I actually prefer this also over the way that Profondo smells. Now, I do still enjoy Profondo a lot. It is, I would say, that scent profile is like a really sort of easy to wear sort of summertime dumb reach fragrance. But at least, you know, in my opinion anyway, I would say that this Saltwater and Cypress, it comes off as being a little bit more interesting, you know, to my nose. This is definitely a lot less sweet than what the Armani is. Also, this has, in my opinion, more of sort of like a aquatic, and I would even say saltier sort of feel to the fragrance than what you get with the Armani Profondo, the Acqua di Gio Profondo. So I would say this is going to be a little bit more on the mature side when it comes to that sort of scent profile, a little bit more masculine and less playful. But, you know, at the same time, like I said, I do actually find this one to be a little bit more on the interesting side, at least for my taste anyway. So again, this is going to be Cremo, Saltwater, and Cypress. All right, and then the last fragrance, this is going to be from the house of Lattafa, and this is a twist on Angel Share. We all know it. This is going to be Lattafa's Khamarah. All right. So I know Need from Aromatics, he did do a video recently basically saying that this was actually like a clone of another Middle Eastern fragrance. I think it was called Sava or something like that. You know, either way, this is still going to be very close to, I would say, even, you know, the Angel Share. Obviously, with this fragrance, you know, you get a much more denser, sweeter, slightly boozier, slightly spicier take on the scent profile. But I would say this is still close enough to Angel Share to where, you know, you could still say that this is still in the same family of fragrances as Angel Share. Obviously with this one also, you do get pretty beast mode performance out of this, really good projection and longevity. And I mean, overall, I would say Really, it just kind of depends on the day with me. You know, I would say probably some days I might prefer to wear something like, you know, Angel Share, or the clone that I have of it, which is Alexandria's Brooklyn Fragrance Lover. That's definitely a lot closer to the original. But there may be some days where I want to wear something a little bit thicker and sweeter, and those would be the days that I would reach for something like this. And again, this is going to be Lattafa's Khamarah. So that's the list, man. Let me know if you all have smelled any of these fragrances. Have you smelled all of them? Have you smelled some of them? And what do you all think in terms of, you know, how close these are to the original? If you consider these clones or twists, let me know in the comments. And once again, if you're brand new to the channel, do me a favor and subscribe. And again, that's Jamar from Vegas Scents. I'll see y'all in the next video.